Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Monday's edition of the live market update and charts of the day. I hope you're well. I hope you're good on this Monday afternoon and that your weekend was awesome. Welcome, one and all, to the session today. Obviously, what we're going to do is going to quickly whiz through some headlines and then let's see if we can find a chart or two of interest. Of course, I will keep on checking in on the chat in YouTube, although there is a slight delay sometimes, but I will check in on it. Thank you for all of you who popped in and said hello already. And obviously, we've got to start with this important message here. Just to remind you, this is for educational purposes only. We are looking at live markets, so please make sure you do your own due diligence on anything you see here. Make sure that you follow trading plans, of course, and make sure you manage risk on every trading action consistent with your own personal trading objectives and financial situation. That important message being shared, let's pop into the headline, shall we? Let's quickly make sure. Hi to Lisa, hi to Roger, hi to Wayne. Thank you very much. Right, okay, let's unpick these headlines. Of course, we had a positive session on Friday to end the week. Okay, despite massive headwinds, really, to be honest, the market just keeps on shrugging them off. Obviously, we're seeing a continuation of US-China trade tension, although not quite as ramped as it was a week ago. We've got the US government shutdown going on with all the implications that has. The No Kings rally on the weekend was pretty spectacularly attended, actually, over 7 million people, and give them a little message in terms of what people think about what's happening right now in the US. Outside of that, there's a little bit of concern about what's happening in the Middle East. Worth keeping an eye on, of course. A little bit of a ceasefire breach by the Israelis has been reported this morning. And of course, on top of that, we've got earnings season ramping up this week. Big week ahead. Big week ahead. We had some relatively okay news out of from the bank earnings that came across the wires. Um, Obviously, we're only at 12-15% have reported so far. But of those so far, we've had 86% report a positive EPS upside and 84% reported a positive revenue surprise. So that has certainly helped market feeling about what's happening with earnings. The growth rate has moved up. It was around about 7.4%, it's now 8.5%. But obviously, this is the week that things ramp up really significantly. So we need to sort of we'll keep an eye on that as we go on and report more fully on Thursday. US futures were last a little mildly positive so far today, just mildly so. I'll just do a quick check in on what's happening now for you. And yeah, hanging on to about 0.2% of the upside. The European markets are looking a bit soft to open. Some interesting moves in commodities today, which we'll check in on in a moment. ASX is looking a little flat. Asian markets, the ASX, has the ASX moved back up to neutral territory yet? Hang Seng's having a flyer. It just opened in excess of 2% to the upside. Assume why that is the case. Shanghai is pretty flat, but they are waiting earnings. They are waiting some key data, including GDP coming out of China. Yeah, ASX is still neutral. Okay, European futures, as I said, point to a weaker open. The US dollar is holding within a range. Gold, after storming up towards 400 middle of the week, we saw a pullback on Friday, another profit-taking pullback. A little bit of a follow-through in Asia today. We'll check out a chart in a moment. Copper is fairly flat and oil looks miserable, really. Testing 4-year lows on continued weakness. We did suggest that might be the case when we met last week. Bitcoin is trading around the 200 MA. It had a retest, significant test of 107,000 support. but it has managed to just bounce a little bit to the upside, as I said, kicking around that key technical point. And of course, as well as trade and earnings news, the US government shutdown may start to get or may start to twitch markets out a little bit more than it has so far, particularly as data is likely to be continued to be delayed. The non-farm payrolls possibly has disappeared from last time. You can argue whether there's a degree of in terms of when things actually shut down. You could sort of argue that that was not a bad thing for the current administration that data wasn't released. There is, or there should be some US CPI this week, but the reports are that that'll be delivered on Friday. We've got Chinese GDP due as well today, as I've already said. Let me just see if we can't get. I'm just going to try and get some internet access. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so you should see the what the ASX is doing now on the screen. Um, and if we flick to the futures, you can see there the Nikkei is doing very well. Um, weakness in oil, slight uptick in the US futures. You can see gold's rebounding nicely, copper's looking strong, Bitcoin's pulling up a little bit, and the yen is the weakest of the currencies there that are catching eye. Just a quick recheck on. Whoops. Just a quick recheck. You can see there ASX near neutral, Hang Seng. Shanghai's had a really nice bounce as it's just opened. As I said, the Hang Seng is looking really interesting. Not sure why that is rocking and rolling to the upside. And we'll quick look at the data today, see if that. I don't think that China data is out. I think it's a little while before it comes out, but we'll check in on it. We have got some loan rates going on there. We kept solid as was expected. The CPI out of New Zealand ticked up, but that's not exactly staggering. But you can see there that group of Chinese data, the GDP, industrial production, retail sales, all due, as well as the jobs report. So looking to see particularly what might happen to GDP. We are expecting a slight move to the downside, which wouldn't be interesting to see um, how that will go down with markets if that actually happens, although it is expected. Anyway, we shall see what we shall see. Nice to get some internet stuff up. Let's check in on some charts. We'll probably start with the Nasdaq, I think. Let me just make sure the charts are showing for you. There we go. They should pop up on your screen in a second. And we'll start with the Nasdaq. You can just see on the Nasdaq we had that big candle pull down, but since then we've managed to crawl our way up. Close at the high of the week on Friday. This sort of 25,000 level looks quite important on the futures contract. There's record highs. Actually, not that far away at all. Um, there will be some big tech reporting this week, although I think the major players are probably next week, if I remember rightly. Let me just quickly check. Let's just do a 29th for Microsoft. Um, yeah, I think big tech isn't this week. We do have some. We have Netflix. Quickly looking for you. Yeah, Netflix and Netflix tomorrow. And I think usually IBM are fairly, yeah, IBM on the 22nd, so that's Wednesday, isn't it? Yep. So be interesting to see. Just watch with if you are trading the Nasdaq, just watch that last hour of the trading day because of when they are essentially released. And so yeah, just watch that if you are in futures contracts. Um, keeps it you'll get some continued action for that last hour of the trading day, even though equity markets have closed, because that's when the reports tend to come out. Right, okay, US dollar, you can see it dropped back into support fairly weak during the course of the week. You can see there it's holding on sort of okay today. A slight gap up to the upside, but still looks fairly precarious. Gold, as I said, is bouncing today after really that weak Friday. It did start off fairly weak, so you can see the buyers are coming back in Asia. You see that initial downturn. There's the buyers coming in. It's actually really quite an interesting chart on the 30-minute. That is creating a short-term double bottom, potentially a move up to maybe $27 up to around this sort of 42.85 could be on the cards. And of course, we are getting candles that are looking interesting. As for copper, copper is holding over $5. You can see there it is up today. We had a sort of fairly soft start to the week last week, and then a sort of stabilization just around that $5 mark. It's obviously a key psychological round number. I just keep an eye on 503. I think that might precipitate some more buying, at least take us up to 511 if that happens. But at this stage, it's go either way. Got two nice lines in the sand to the top and the bottom to indicate where the sentiment is changing one way or the other. As for oil, there's those 4-year lows, which we actually closed beneath on Thursday, managed to hold on Friday. Weak again today. I'll just put it into context by putting it on the monthly chart. Last time at these levels, obviously we tested them. We tested them in May, early May, and you can see back here. This is the last time we closed the month at these levels, which was all the way back in March 2021. So really significant pullback in oil again. Looking very bearish, and this is a key level that we're trading at right now. If you look at the 30-minute chart, I would say the low from Friday's trading at 56.68 is worth keeping an eye on. There's around about 60 cents from where we are now to that particular. We are in a short-term range for those who scalp hard. So yeah, want to keep an eye on. And Bitcoin, as I said, really was looking very shaky throughout the week. We had this test of this 107 and bounced straight back up, suggesting that this level is super important, as some people would say. There's the move up that we had yesterday over the weekend, but you can see it's hardly convincing. A lot of people got hurt by cryptos on this sort of the previous week. So it's a bit rangy at the minute, but I would be keeping an eye. I would probably ignore the weekend's trading, but if we do breach this level, looks quite important. Every time it hits this level, there seems to be buying come back in, and that's around about that 106,600 level. So there's a potential short-term pinch if it breaches 107 to the downside. Of course, if we do see some buying, then equally this level to the upside around about 109,500 looks interesting for a possible couple of thousand moves to the upside, maybe pause halfway. So Bitcoin's proving to be interesting. Oh, that's not the US yen. Okay, so that's our new trading panel. It's good. You see the long-term trend on US yen is positive. You can calculate some swap, calculate some risk, and then execute a trade on this. Just need to move that down a little bit. Let's have a look at the real US yen. There we go. And you can see the move up in today's session. Just a little bit of a pullback on this candle that we're currently in right now, which has about 12 minutes to run. So if I pop it on the hourly chart, you can just see a very unconvincing move from to push us higher from there. You can see that long wick over the last hour. 151 looks like it's a key level. Doesn't look as though there's the appetite yet to breach that, although there is confluence on multiple timeframes. That a breach of that would be interesting. A move up possibly 33 to 35 cents on that could be on the cards. If we look at the Aussie yen, new breakout, didn't realize that was on there. New breakout indicator. You can see there we're sort of back into this range here that's sort of indicated by this box here. We're using this for a three um, three range break brothers, because obviously there's a couple of things that can happen here. We can have a breach and a straight breakout. We can have a fake out, which is what this is. So it moves out of the range and then back in, as we see here. That's the second, and then the third is what we call a break and retest. This is not a bad example of that, where it broke, it retested, and then came to the downside. So this is what this indicator helps us do in terms of creating new EAs. We'll talk about that on the session tonight for those of you who are rocking up to that. If you can make it along, that would be great to see you there. Of course, be part of that group. Uh, just a little reminder, if you are watching this on YouTube, then if you wouldn't mind, if you like it, smashing a like. And of course, if you're not subscribed, click on the subscribe button as well. Right, okay, that's hardly compelling, is it? It's just moved back into the range. Possibly if we get a breach, let's say, of this level here, you can see there it was tested a couple of times. That's the range high there. Didn't quite make it up to that level. But I think maybe this 62, 65.27 is worth a look. We have just moved over 65, so a little bit of work to do before we get to that point. But should we breach that, we've possibly got a 30 to 40 pip move to the upside again. If we look at the euro yen, we'll use the same thing. You can see there's a nice example of a fake out where we breached and then sort of moved back into the previous range. In fact, there's quite a lot of these on this. That one was. This one was a very choppy end of day. Um, this one was a breakout. You can see there. Um, and this one was a breakout retest and then move up, although it wasn't exactly convincing. Anyway, the bottom line on this is that there is a level of interest there. You can see this current candle here. Last tested that and pulled back. Maybe some people sitting there with sell limit orders that have been triggered to pull it back down again. But keep an eye on 176.33. Let's just have a look at the GB pound yen. GB pound yen actually looks more compelling to keep an eye on. You can see here this was a range of interest. We had a breakout here and then a long retracement back into the 30 chart. So I think this 203.41 looks interesting. Looked as though we're going to shoot up to that, but again, it's a typical Monday morning. We may be bimbling around this mid-range here without any conviction either way. Let's just check out the GB pound, USD. You can see we're in a current range that's already been identified because it's fit criteria. But a little noisy to the upside, so and a little noisy to the downside until you get down to around about 134. Very difficult to find a compelling. The Canadian dollar yen. Canadian dollar's quite strong this morning. This actually doesn't look too bad, although it has pulled back. So yeah, we've got a level there at 107.92, so just beneath the 108. Technically, this looks like the best chart. There's possibly around about 50 pips if we breach that level. I'm going to make that my chart of the day. So a breach of 108, possible 50 pip move to the upside on Canadian dollar yen. But of course, it's worthwhile being patient at this stage. It could quite easily come down back to test 107.50. It looks as though the yen's gaining a little bit of strength. Might be some early profit taking. You can see that was quite a shift in early doors. Around about 60 pips, and then we've sort of pulled back around 20 of those. So a standard 30% retracement. This stage, next move on this might be key. Okay, right. there's our chart of the day for that. Let's have a quick check in on some ASX stuff. 360 ASX continues to drop off, um, and it is actually testing a key level. So after rampaging up over the course of the last few months, to the tune of around about 260%, which is sort of quite remarkable. It has pulled back. It has pulled back down to this $45 level. So that's not filling the world full of happy joy feelings. LYC, rare earths on the card. Now, why are rare earths? I think rare earths are worth a look, guys. I am doing a sort of. I'm going to write an article this week on rare earths for those of you less familiar, but I did talk about them on a little bit on Inner Circle last week. Might even do a rare earths outlook because they are front and center of the news at the minute. So Trump has clocked that Australia have at least some significant-ish rare earth production. He's counting on blowing holes in Alaska to try and find some. He's counting on trying to persuade China to who process who mine around about 70%, who process around about 90%. But of course, the other big player in this space is Australia. Around about 8% of the world's rare earths come from this, and you can see the bounce on a couple of reports that talking rare earths might be on the agenda. If he doesn't get a good deal, I'm sure he'll slap 70% tariffs on anything that he can. But you can see there the nice bounce today. 2171 is where the previous high was around about a week ago. But even that's around 5% to the upside. So one wonders whether it's worth a nudge then just with a smaller position and then just see what happens at this stage. You could either take profit on that and wait for it to breach, or you could just accumulate into this. The other player, of course, into this space is Iluka. Not sure. I haven't had a look at Iluka today, but I wouldn't be. Oh, it's not actually looking particularly good. No. Iluka all over the place. Had a really big day on Friday, but profit taken today for some reason. We've got a little bit of a gap to fill on ILU. So if we do start to get a move towards this sort of $8 level, then I think that could be. If you do it at $8, what it means is you're breaching this high candle, this very excited candle that we had on Friday. Do a little bit of a deeper dig on iLuca, just sort of see why it's not doing too clever today, but certainly worth checking in on for sure. You don't want to be in uranium stocks today, obviously. Is that corporate? What's PDN doing? Yeah, Paladin's getting hit as well, but obviously not anywhere near deep yellow. That feels corporate. Anyway, let's Zip. It's going to be close. It's getting close. Okay, so Zipco, we talked about this last week. We said just watch this range. I said might be a bounce off this support. It looks fairly well established. Potential move up to 477. Keep this on your radar. It has already tested that actually in today's trading. It's up around just under 4% at this stage, but that's a really nice bounce off support. I would keep this on your radar significantly. Oh, there we go. We can have a look at our look at that, Wayne. Ta-da! Anyway, I'll update. Lithium stock's doing okay. Let's have a look at PLS and notice. I'm going to keep that on really. I don't want to get rid of that. Let's just do this one on a. Just having noticed that. Where's PLS? There it is. Yeah. So you can see PLS is sort of stuck just under this 275 level. Now, if we close where we are now, that would be the highest close of this bunch of candles. Little safety head says it might be worth waiting until we breach the high of these candles, which would be around about 278. So it's not actually that far away, 5 or 6 cents. But just to put this into context, if we look at a weekly chart, this is the high on PLS really since back here in November last year. So almost 12-month highs on PLS. That's sort of interesting, worthwhile keeping on your radar. As I said, that 278 makes that a really attractive potential chart of the day. Let's just move that, just pop up another window I can use. How are coal stocks doing? Coal looked quite positive last week. There's WHC, really sharp line in the sand there around about 730. You can see contextually it looks important as well. It was tested back here in early August as well as in September 2024. So we're approaching 12-month highs on this as well. Last closed above this level on that candle there, so around about October last year. But that 728 looks as though it's worth keeping on your radar, to be honest. BVS, we talked about BVS, $3 before. And let's have just a quick check-in on retailers. It's not massively compelling, is it? You could say JB Hi-Fi is looking as though it might bounce off a support level, but I'm not over enthused. Let's just have a look at Yanko because I didn't reference those yet. No, we are up 100% today. Yeah, I like this. I like this chart. We did talked about it as a potential double bottom there. You can see that, and then suggested potential gap fill. Only if we breach this level here. So I think this 572 is really key on YAL. But that's for my charts of the day. I'm going to call it PLS over 278. And I'm going to call it 477 on Zipco Limited. A little bit of a look at the US, I guess, is worthwhile doing. Let's just make this a back test, obviously. There we go. There we go. NVDA did have a positive day. One wonders whether we're sort of up here at the minute. I wonder whether this is a potential buying opportunity that markets will see. I'm not convinced yet. AMD, who have had an interesting ride, have now created a range of note. They have already reported, so it's one of those stocks which you can actively have a look at. Not worrying about earnings. 237 is the level. That's actually quite. I think that's really worth keeping an eye on. There's a gap trading indicator. So that's looking at daily gap. Generally speaking, it seems to be that a gap that's close of US market to open of US market is essentially how that works. I'll just show you by putting some period separators on that. There we go. But yeah, so that's the close to the open of the Nasdaq the following day. So we'll have a look at that as a potential trade. It looks as though a move, the sweet spot may be a gap of around about 0.5%. But you can see again quite a few fake outs here, or quite a few gap closes, even after a move above. See there, there's a walloping great move to the downside. That's obviously Trump. But again, a move below and we got it closed, a move above and we got it closed, a move above and we got it closed. So that's sort of interesting. So I'm going to leave that there actually. I'm going to just park that there. Right, okay, let's just pop it on here. I want to quickly check in on Tesla, who I don't think um, had a. There we go. Had a bad day in extended hours trading today. Is that today's candle? No, that's from obviously that's from Friday. Extended hours open later. That's a nice move on Friday to take us back up to this 442 level. Is this an opportunity? Worth having a look at in session tonight, possibly move up to 260 or these highs uh, around about 480. But certainly looks as though it's consolidating here. Maybe some institutional accumulation going on at this point here. Anyway, that should probably do us for today. Um, I think. I hope that's been useful, interesting, and I hope it gives you some ideas to keep on your radar for today. So many thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for clicking the likes for those of you who've done that already. No worries, Peter. Take care of yourselves. Have a good day. Talita and Roger and Wayne and you guys in the YouTube channel. You take care. Trade safe. Bye bye for now.